Good evening, everyone. Welcome. The Red Bank Planning Board will come to order this 15th day of April, 2024. I hope everyone has paid their taxes. The time is 7:03 p.m. Notice of this meeting is being held in accordance with Public Laws 1975, Chapter 231. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted in the main lobby here in the municipal building, as well as the municipal website. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Portman, absent. Greg Fitzgerald, absent. Thomas Welsh, absent. Christina Bonatakis. Dan Mancuso.
Here.
Louis Demento.
Here.
Barbara Boas, absent. Megan Massey.
Here.
Wilson Bibi.
Here.
Itzel Hernandez.
Here.
Frederick Stone,
Here.
Brian Carnigan, absent.
Welcome again, everyone. We have Kevin Kennedy, our zoning board attorney, filling in for Mark Lexney tonight. We have no minutes or resolutions. We have one public hearing, which is 54 Northbridge Avenue, Block 2, Lot 18, Two River Green LLC in the BR1 zone. Conditional use and site plan approval. The applicant seeks conditional use and minor site plan approval for a licensed cannabis retail facility that the applicant proposes to operate at 54 Northbridge Avenue. Applicant proposes no site modifications other than addition of a van accessible parking space and handicap ramp to meet requirements of the ADA. Mr. Minardi, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Which side do you prefer?
Either one.
Great.
Very much.
Mr. Chairman, as the applicant team comes forward, may I, with your consent and permission, do a couple preliminary procedural things? All right, so first up, let's swear in Sean Ebanks, professional planner and Borough's Director of Community Development, and we'll also swear in Jacqueline Derman, our board engineer. Ladies, if you could raise your right hands, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
All right, let the record reflect that both witnesses have been sworn. And Mr. Chairman, I'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us already, just so we're laying a clear foundation. A1 is going to be the zoning application package. A2 is the Red Bank Red Bank plans for conditional use permit prepared by Temecca Group, dated November 11th, 2022, consisting of 4 sheets. A3 is the updated survey plan dated June 30th, 2023. A4 is the denial of zoning permit dated March 31st, 2023. A5 is the application checklist dated August 15th, 2023. A6 is a narrative of intent. A7 is the preliminary and final minor site plan prepared by Dynamic Engineering dated January 26, 2024, last revised March 26, 2024, consisting of 13 sheets. A8 is the response letter prepared by Dynamic Engineering dated January 30th, 2024. A9 is a security plan prepared by the applicants and it's dated December of 2023. A10 is a response letter prepared by James Henry and Matthew Birch of Dynamic Engineering dated April 4th, 2024. A11 is a trip and parking generation letter prepared by Bauman Consulting Group dated April 2nd, 2024. For the record, we'll mark as A12 the owner's letter of consent. A13, we have a review email memorandum from the Borough's Environmental Commission dated February 24th, 2024. A14, we have a Shade Tree Commission email review memorandum dated February 18th, 2024. And A15 is the T&M Associates review memorandum dated April 12th, 2024. And Shauna, somewhere in my package, I saw the traffic report or analysis, but then I saw one page.
There's both. There's
That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's other ones.
So then,
That is.
sure. So we'll mark this as A16.
A16 was,
I'm sorry.
I think A16 is part of A1.
Oh, it's a part of A1?
I think that is something I prepared.
Okay,
Kind of superseded by the traffic.
Oh, okay. Was
It
it?
is in the application.
so we'll just put that as part of your, okay, so we will not mark that as A16. And then, Mr. Chairman, the only other thing before we turn it over is just, sometimes I find it helpful, the name of the applicant. We should probably just for the record disclose who the principals are, so if we know, if we hear ABC Inc., we might not think we have a conflict, but if we hear that the principals, we might say, oh, that's a client of mine, or something like that. So the record suggests that the individuals who have a 10% or greater interest in Two River Greens LLC are Selena Murford and Kent Yang. So is there anyone hearing those names, Mr. Chairman? Does that cause any conflicts or questions about conflicts or?
Here's
Okay,
Bob.
thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Councilor. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Edward Minority.
Just hold the mic.
Representing.
Pull it real close. And if I could just make one quick announcement to the public, just so everybody knows, the way we're gonna handle this is the applicant is going to bring up folks to testify. If anyone has any questions at the conclusion of each person's testimony, that's when you can ask questions. Comments will be held till the end.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I was saying, I represent Two River Greens LLC.
Just,
Pull it even closer. I'm sorry, yeah, go full rock star.
yes.
We want to make sure it gets on the record.
Very good. This is Edward Minority representing the applicant Two River Greens LLC, formerly known as Floral LLC, and underwent a name change early on in this process. This is an application to convert the existing laundromat at 54 North Bridge Avenue to a retail cannabis store. The store will take up the entire building. No change to the footprint of the building is proposed. This is located in the BR, Business Residential 1 zone. It's a conditional use in that zone. The applicant seeks minor site plan and conditional use approvals. It meets all conditions of the conditional use. Our testimony will show that. We seek no variances. There are some pre-existing non-conforming conditions that will continue. The application will remove certain design non-conformities, others will remain. We'll get into that with the engineering testimony. There's no change in the building footprint. I'll be calling tonight as witnesses a fact witness who is responsible for licensing and opening and operating cannabis stores on behalf of this and other applicants, the design engineer of the site plan, and a traffic engineer. Unless anyone has any questions, I would propose to call Alexandra De La Torre.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask one question to Mr. Minority and just to make sure, and I definitely don't want to jump ahead, but I just, again, I'm filling in for the planning board attorney, and I just wanted to, Shauna, just so that I'm clear, and I think there might have been some discussion with the applicant's attorney, but I'm not sure, but if this application were to be approved, is it then that they would also need a license from the Borough of Red Bank?
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're aware of that, Mr. Menard.
Aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to be clear, I'm not cannabis counsel for this app. I'm just land use guy. So if you have questions about that, I'm sorry, let's ask somebody else.
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I didn't get your name,
Alexandra De La Torre.
and just spell your last name, please.
It's 3 words, DE space LA space TORRE.
Okay, and if you could just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God? And just for the record, he'll get your credentials momentarily, but you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed.
I'm a licensed California attorney. However, I have worked on 42 cannabis licenses. Specifically, I've obtained 24 licenses in the state of New Jersey. Start naming cities if that helps.
Thank you.
So you are a fact-based witness.
Correct.
I'm not offering as a.
Fine, I'm just making notes. Thank you.
So, Ms. De La Torre, what is your relationship with the applicant?
So I am an attorney for Puzzle Group, which is a cannabis consulting firm. Puzzle Group is a vendor contractor for Two River Greens, formerly known as Floral RP. And in this capacity, we assisted in identifying the retail location drafting the conditional state application, and then also drafting the annual conversion state application that was just submitted on April 4th, 2024.
Can you please describe the property that's the subject of this application?
So Two River Greens is proposing a Class 5 retail dispensary at 54 Northbridge Avenue, also known as Block 2, Lot 18. At this time, there's no deed restrictions. The property is located in the Business Residential 1 zone, where cannabis retailers are permitted as a conditional use. The property has one fixed commercial structure that's approximately 2,224 square feet. There's only one unit and the applicant will occupy the entirety of the unit. It's a pretty straightforward retail operation with no delivery planned at this time, and the hours of operation will be 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Saturday in compliance with the Borough of Red Bank.
I'm sorry, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Sunday through Saturday?
Thank you.
Give the board a description of the applicant's history in terms of certifications and things like that.
So on October 26, 2022, Floro RB LLC obtained a resolution of support for their proposed retail dispensary from the Borough Council.
And I'm sorry, that was the dated,
That was October 26, 2022.
thank you.
On October 27th, 2022, we received a zoning verification letter from zoning officer Ebanks, informing us that the property complied and met all sensitive use requirements, including the 1,000-foot buffer from school drug-free zones. The applicant received their women-owned business certification on June 1st, 2023, and then received their conditional license of approval from the state of New Jersey on January 18th, 2024.
It's a cannabis license?
It's a conditional license, correct? That does not authorize you to operate a cannabis facility. And so in order to operate the cannabis facility and obtain the license, you have to submit your conditional conversion, and that was submitted on April 4th, 2024.
So let's discuss the nature of the property itself. One question the borough asked in its reports was about utilities. What kind of utilities are going to be using it?
So all utilities, the applicant will utilize all the existing utilities. There will be no new utility connections needed.
Thank you. And what about heating, ventilating, and air conditioning?
The Two River Greens will also utilize all existing HVAC units.
Will there be any outside generators or noise-making devices at all?
No outside generators or other use of electrical equipment of any kind.
What kind of improvements does the applicant plan to make to the outside of the building?
So the applicant intends to apply a fresh coat of paint, resurface the parking lot, restripe the parking lot. Also, if you notice the building, there's several windows that cover the north side of the building and also the east side. Those windows will be covered with a thin opaque film as to render the visibility, no visibility to be able to look in. However, it will allow light to be able to shine through. And the interior will receive renovations as well.
Okay, thank you. So what kind of products does the applicant propose to sell from this project?
So Two River Greens will only sell pre-packaged, tested and sealed labeled cannabis and cannabis products. This could include flower, concentrates, edibles, tinctures, drops, and no alcohol or tobacco will be permitted on the premises.
Consumption of cannabis be permitted on the premises?
No,
I'm sorry, I don't think the mic's picking you up, just.
Oh, I'm sorry, will consumption of cannabis be permitted on the premises?
no consumption of cannabis will be permitted on the premises.
Thank you. Can you describe the operation of the facility in terms of what happens when a customer comes to make a purchase?
So before I jump into that really quickly, if I could just point everyone to the security diagram, because I think that'll help with the operations. It'll explain it. It'll tie into the operations.
That's fine.
Need to mark that in, or has that been marked already?
Mark it as, sorry.
Probably 8, yeah.
A9?
Yes.
Okay,
No, it was also in A1 as well.
okay, thank you.
I just want to describe the control access areas, so that when we go through the operation, it just makes it easier to understand how traffic will flow or customers will flow. So to prevent the unauthorized entrance into the areas containing cannabis and to prevent any cannabis theft, each area within the floor plan is color coded. Each color demonstrates the different types of access that limit access to authorized individuals only. So unrestricted access is green right here. This is where customers are permitted. Retail access area is in yellow right here. And that's only available to people who show proper ID verifying that they're 21 years old. Limited access areas are notated in red. And these areas are limited to only those authorized to have access. So any employee or city official that is specific access and permission from the CRC. Within the limited access area, the secure storage area and the office are considered highly restrictive, and that's right here within. This highly restricted area is limited only to management and will require a two-factor identification, including an access card and a PIN code to access. The only areas of the building that are accessible to customers include the reception area and the restrooms, the retail sales floor, once ID is verified, and all other areas will be restricted to staff. Customers enter the facility at the north side of the building, so this is the north side. They will come through, meet the receptionist. This is where the ID check will occur. Any unauthorized person will not be allowed to enter the facility. Once the ID is verified, the customer will be permitted into the retail sales floor right here with the access control. Once inside, the customer will have the option to browse menus, view displays, look at different products. They will be able to order on their own on a kiosk or approach one of our POS systems here and have an employee help them obtain whichever products they prefer. To manage customer flow, we propose curbside pickup and online orders, which will help manage traffic before coming onto the site, while the security and the receptionist will help control the reception area and the retail sales floor area. Once the transaction occurs, the customer then exits right here through this door so as to separate the incoming members and the outgoing members. So that way there's no one that gets past security without being properly identified.
Excuse me, where does that exit door leave into the?
It goes right back into right here, right into the lobby. So you enter here, sorry. Enter there, and then you exit right here, go right back out.
Okay.
So you mentioned access control, certain functions in the structure. Describe the access control.
Sure, so going to the access control, this prevents the unauthorized entrance into areas containing cannabis and the theft of cannabis, as I mentioned earlier. Access control devices are on every door leading into a limited access area as shown on the diagram by AC. So when you first enter the facility and once your ID is verified, there's an access control right here to enter onto the restricted access area. There's no way for a customer to be able to access the restricted access for employees because this also has an access control as well. Each time an employee enters a restricted access area, the access control device will log and authenticate each member who wishes to pass through before unlocking.
Makes sense. So the access device works by a code or something like that?
It's a key fob. And so then if you want the highly restricted access where the storage area and the office is, this requires a double factor authentication. So this would be a fob and a PIN code.
Okay, and how about the admission of the public from the green area, the reception area, into the retail store area? How does that?
That access is controlled by the receptionist. So once the ID is properly verified that the person is who they say that they are, and they are in fact 21 and it's a real ID, then there is an access control with the receptionist where she buzzes the customer.
Okay, and in terms of the handling of the product itself, are the customers handling the product while they're examining it?
They're not. So there is a case right here on the retail store or floor, right there. It's locked and enclosed in glass, so people are not able to go and just touch the product. There's also glass cases all right here where the POS systems are. That way customers can come in and look at the product that they like. They would take their order from the employee at the POS system, and the employee would automatically pick the product right then and there. And that the transaction would occur.
Thank you. Wanted to talk about odor mitigation, but is there anything else on traffic flow, customer traffic flow we want to address before we get to that?
Unless there's any questions.
You say the question. Leanne?
Yeah.
Chairman, okay. So does the applicant propose to have any odor control, odor mitigation devices in place?
Yes, so Two River Greens will have equipment sufficient to mitigate odor, although retail establishments don't typically emanate odor because of the nature of their products being prepackaged. Two River Greens will install multiple carbon filters around the facility near intake points and at points of air exhaust to filter any odor that
I'm sorry, multiple carbon. What was it?
carbon filters
Got it, thank you.
to filter any odor that may come from cannabis within the facility. We will also, as mentioned earlier, not permit any on-site consumption on the premises. All entrances to Two River Greens facility will be locked and strictly controlled. There's only 2 entrances into the facility. One entrance is limited to the customers here. The second entrance here is for deliveries and employees only, which will remain locked during all times. Additionally, Two River Greens will only store cannabis products within secure storage area, which is well within the building and also within the glass case. So that no product is visible to the street. Also, the windows are opaque, so there should be no product visible from the street. And finally, Two River Greens will regularly clean the facility to prevent odor. Employees will perform light cleaning as part of their opening and closing.
Thank you. Please address issues concerning waste generation by the facility.
Well, as mentioned, due to the products being prepackaged and open off-site, it's not anticipated that the retailer will generate significant amounts of trash. We anticipate there being 3 types of trash: recyclables, trash from employees and in the normal course of business, and the third is cannabis waste. All recyclables will go into recyclable containers. All trash from the business and employees will be designated for the 2 95-gallon trash cans outside within a locked enclosure. And all cannabis waste will be separated from all other waste and all other usable cannabis. And this will be secured actually within the secured access area. And we will have a special facilitator who will come and pick up the waste products on an as-needed basis.
You describe tell the board please whether there will be any environmental impact from this facility.
There shouldn't be any hazardous materials or wastewater or any type of industrial or agricultural waste materials generated. Two River Greens will implement a plan to have renewable energy, reduce water, waste, conserve water, reduce emissions, and reduce the impact they have on the environment.
Thank you. You describe the alarm system that will be installed.
Sure, so the premises is gonna be monitored 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They will have a professionally installed and maintained alarm system that is monitored at a central monitoring location off-site. The alarm system will cover all entrances and exits. If you look at the diagram, we will have door contact transmitters marked by DC on each of the doors. The alarm magnetic door contact sense whether a door is open or closed, and whether the two parts of the sensor are together or apart. There will also be audible alarms indicated by the megaphone right here. This is generated by the manual activation of a device intended to alert the monitoring company that a life-threatening or an emergency is happening. There's also another manually activated alarm indicated by K, and this is the alarming keypad directly on the retail sales, or, excuse me, the reception area. There's also panic alarm buttons to alert authorities of any emergencies. And this is indicated by H. It's next to every single POS system, also at the receptionist area and within the secure storage area as well, which is also considered the office, excuse me, right here. And in addition to that, there will also be manually activated alarms that have interior access spaces that are covered by passive infrared motion detectors by MD, and that is within each of the secure access areas and also the retail sales floor and the reception area.
Please describe video security.
So the entire exterior of the premises will be covered by video surveillance. If you take a look at the diagram, it hits every single window. So there's no windows on this side of the building, but it does cover this wall. There's a camera right here that does 180-degree view. Also covering these two doors from the exterior and the interior. As well as within the secure access storage area and within the reception area. There's also going to be surveillance over every single POS system.
And this is videotape stored how?
There's going to be at least 100 terabyte of hard drive storage on site, and then they will also contract with an appropriate internet service for remote viewing and remote access.
So it's digital images?
Correct.
And will it be available to the police?
Upon request by the Borough Police, yes.
Talk about delivery of merchandise to the property, inventory control, things.
So delivery is done in vehicles much like a Ford Transit van. It's very small delivery vehicle that can fit into a normal parking space. This should be done anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week, and it will be done before hours of operation. Deliveries will be made through this door right here on to the right, which will be limited to only employees and for deliveries. Regarding inventory control, to maintain quality control and inventory, Two River Greens will utilize a track and trace system that is integrated within the POS system. That records inventory and the movement of cannabis to and from the facility.
How cash be handled in this site?
So every transaction that occurs will be recorded by the POS inventory system. Show secure access area. All cash received except that needed for retail customer transactions will be kept in a secure drop. Once the employee reaches a certain threshold, the employee then takes the cash and puts it into the secure lock drop.
Drop safe?
Correct, it's a drop safe. There will be armor card pickups, and that will also occur periodically.
How secure is the secure storage area?
It's pretty secure. It's reinforced with maximum security ASM 0.50-13 mesh, which creates a penetration area behind drywall that's used to secure government, commercial and retail buildings all over the world. Security mesh is then fastened to the metal studs to inhibit bending or the ability to cut, and will be finished with fire-resistant gypsum.
Finally, will there be any security guards at the property?
Two River Greens will contract with licensed security guards, and there will always be one security guard per shift to guard the premises. Their function will entail monitoring the premises during deliveries, surveying premises for criminal activity and suspicious behavior, theft, and diversion, prevent loitering and on-site consumption, ensure all people entering the premises are over 21, report any intruders or emergencies, and maintain security logs.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Although Two River Greens doesn't anticipate being a nuisance, they will establish a community relations contact for anyone within 100 feet of the facility. So in case that, you know, there is an issue or some sort of complaint, there will be one designated person that will receive those complaints, who will be an on-staff employee. And they will be available anytime, either before business hours or during business hours to take and process complaints, if any.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
I have a couple of questions. Are the transactions all cash,
No,
credit cards?
if permitted, they debit cards, not credit cards.
Will the security be armed?
If the borough police would like them to be armed, then that could something that we could speak about, but as of right now, the plan is not to have them.
We submitted to the police for comment and they had no comment.
Okay. How is your product, what type of packaging, not end user packaging, delivery packaging is used for the product to come to the property?
So it's very minimal packaging. Of course, you have to understand that, yes, the packages need to arrive in something, so it'll be minimal bulk packaging, and we'll also utilize vendors who have recycle programs to incentivize using less waste.
So as far as your non-cannabis trash and recyclables, how often do you anticipate the regular office trash pickup to be?
I would anticipate it being regular pickup times.
So you'll schedule that with a private hauler to pick up at whatever frequency the operator would like to do?
We privately arranged hauling, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, are you meaning cannabis waste or?
No, I know you've got a separate
No,
plan for
okay.
cannabis waste. I mean, office waste. And as well as recycling. We just want to make sure you're using a private hauler, and you obviously don't have a lot of space to store this.
Correct,
So you've got a plan for that.
correct, yes.
Okay.
We will try to set up pickup for before hours of operation.
That would help. My last question. You mentioned curbside pickup. Maybe the engineer can cover this. Do you have designated parking or spaces for the curbside pickup?
At this time, nothing is designated set in stone.
Okay.
But we can adjust.
Anyone else on the board have any questions for the applicant or Ms. Delatorre?
I have one question. Go ahead. Kristen.
I was just gonna ask if you could describe a little bit better the film that you mentioned would be in place in the windows. Do I understand correctly that that would allow light in but not out?
It will allow light in, but it renders it opaque, so you can't see in whatsoever. It's just, it's a thin film that you can close the windows.
So there would be no light from the inside visible to the outside.
You know,
I don't believe so.
I have one more follow-up to that. That's a lot of glass. Any security concern with that much open glass?
No security concern. There are, on every single window, there are glass break detectors, and we have surveillance cameras covering all of the windows, so no concern.
Okay. Awesome.
You mentioned that you don't plan on having a backup generator, but you have an extensive security system. What is the energy fallback system for the security? The locking doors, and I mean, I know some of them come contained with their own battery resources, but you have a lot going on.
There is a backup system that's battery operated. It's a UPS system. And I can get you more details on that. But the way that if there was a failure, then the UPS system would prevent the failure from happening or any tampering. So there would still be sufficient energy to continue to operate services. And if the power did go out for, a amount of time that we felt.
Let's say a couple of days.
I would say a couple hours, you would have to stop business at that time in order to fix the issue.
Right, I think I'd be curious, what the backup power system, is it some type of power wall,
I can get you more information on it. I just know it's a UPS battery backup system.
It's Mr. Beebe, did I pronounce that correctly?
You're correct.
I just asked a couple of questions that might.
Sure.
Will Studer Beans hire a professional firm to install this system?
Yes,
And
they will.
They'll design it for you?
Yes, they will.
And you're not a security specialist, are you?
I am not.
It'll be a professionally designed system. It's made to anticipate situations.
Anyone else from the board have any questions?
I have a-
Do you have any questions?
I have a question. The CRC just passed a law allowing for consumption areas within these retail stores. Can you confirm that your client will not allow consumption rooms or any of that sort, even if they plan to do so in like the future?
Confirming there will be no consumption lounge now or in the near future.
Okay.
At that location.
No consumption period.
No consumption period. No consumption.
No on-site
on the
commission,
premises.
yes.
Are you the person to describe how many employees will be on site?
So we anticipate there being anywhere from 4 to 6 employees. Of course, certain holidays, we would anticipate there being more employees. However, we would adjust, but in any given day, it would be anywhere from 4 to 6 employees, including 1 security guard.
I'm sorry, is that 4 to 6 maximum at one time?
Correct, on a normal day of operation.
How many people do you anticipate to be their customers?
We anticipate there to be about 8 to 10 customers per hour. So about 74 customers a day.
Chairman, could I ask a couple questions if you don't mind? Just out of curiosity, thank you. You said you're from a cannabis consulting group and I don't know if this is a stupid question or not, is this a smaller facility that you would normally have, a larger facility? Is there anything unique here about this setup and surrounding uses that differentiates from other, whether it's better or worse, anything like that?
Well, the location it's right when you're coming up off the bridge, so it's front and center in the gateway. As far as the square footage, it's right within the sweet spot of a normal cannabis facility, right around 2,000 to 2,500 square feet.
And what about is there an appointment process or is this all walk-ins?
There is a queuing system that we would have online to incentivize people to order online. Our online system would allow us to queue people because let's say that, we anticipate 2:15 PM and I'm just naming a name to have more traffic, then we would eliminate those time slots and only allow people to register time slots where there would be more parking spaces or more, opportunity for them to be helped quicker.
Because when I've driven by some other establishments, and in fairness, I don't know what type of establishments they are, but I sometimes see lots of lines, lots of queuing outside. Is that gonna happen here and why or why not?
It's not gonna happen here, so every week that goes by, more and more cannabis dispensaries are open. I believe I checked 2 weeks ago and there was 114 dispensaries open. So of course, when they first open, there's gonna be, crowds of people. We would anticipate that early on and make adjustments as necessary. However, I don't anticipate, especially given that the population here and it's more of a summer, destination area for people, we don't anticipate that occurring at the location.
And then you had referenced the employee shifts. What are those shifts, if you know?
I believe there will be anywhere from 2 to 3 shifts in a day, opening and closing, just depending on, how busy we anticipate being for that week.
And what about what type of employees? Is there a pharmacist on site or
No pharmacy.
no pharmacist? And what type of employees?
We'll have a receptionist, a security guard, and some sort of manager on site. At any given time, there'll also be bud tenders.
And in terms of is there a limit on, does the CRC have limits on how much product one individual person can purchase, or there is no regulation on that?
There is a limit.
Okay, and how do you govern that?
That's governed by the POS system, that it has track and trace, so as soon as you come in, you're instantly identified by your ID barcode, and that tracks how much cannabis that you have purchased in any given day.
And just out of curiosity, is it networked with other dispensaries, or is it just unique to yours?
It's all of one track and trace system.
Through the Cannabis Commission.
So there's several track and trace systems, but they all have this, they all enter into the same data. But there's different systems, different platforms, I would say.
And just, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, just for the record, is there any cultivation or wholesaling or manufacturing or growing on site?
No cultivation, no manufacturing. And I'm sorry, what was the last one?
We said wholesaling, growing, manufacturing. Okay, thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
products will be prepackaged.
I have another question. You mentioned that people can order online. How do you manage if there is a queue a walk-up queue outside, and someone has a timed slot for their online order? How do you manage that physically from the outside? Do they wait in the same line as everyone else?
No, so when you enter onto the retail floor area, so people aren't automatically gonna come and go to a POS and order their products. Sometimes you can order from your own kiosk, which will be, there will be kiosks for them to order. I'm not sure if that one is, but there will be kiosk placed so people can order individually for themselves. But as far as online ordering, we would anticipate they come in, they get their ID checked, and they would go directly to the POS, give them their name, verify the ID to ensure that they are who they say they are, and then hand over the product, because payment would be done online. So it would be a pretty quick process.
So how many customers maximum do you anticipate being, or could you handle in the property at one time, inside?
I mean, it would really just depend on how long each person, took to order their product, but with a ticket time of anywhere between, 2 and 8 minutes. Probably help anywhere between 10 and 12 people per hour.
So will there be a limit on the number of people you'll let in, either into the green reception area at one time and or into the yellow customer area at one time? What's your maximum load you'll let in at one time?
That would depend on how many employees are on the retail sales floor at any given time. I just don't want to guesstimate.
Well, you don't have to guesstimate, but I'd like an answer. I mean, I think, business is booming. You can max out the number of salespeople you have. How many people are going to be in this place at any one time? At your highest?
Well, if there's 4 to 6 employees and there's a reception person and a security guard, that would mean that there would be anywhere between 2 and 4 people at POSs. So during that time, we would be able to permit anywhere between 4 and 5 people onto the retail sales floor at one time.
And how much room do you have in the green reception area to queue people? Let's say it's horrible weather, they don't want to wait outside. How many people do you anticipate is too many for you to have in that room? That your reception person would feel uncomfortable with X number of people queuing inside?
We would limit that to how many chairs there are in the facility. And so right now, I believe that there are just the two at the reception, in the reception area. So we would limit that to two.
Anyone else from the board have any questions?
You mentioned that there is a bud tender. What does that mean? Like, what would that person do?
They're the employee who actually grabs the product.
Oh, okay.
And educates them on whichever product that they're looking
That's the sales staff.
to save.
Oh, that's the sales, that's what you're, the sales staff.
Did anyone from the public have any questions for our applicant at this time regarding the testimony given so far? Come on up.
Just gonna borrow your.
And do I swear her in?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know what? We're just gonna swear you in. If you could just state your name and address, please.
My name is Sylvia Costantino. I reside at 33 Rambling Brook Drive in Holmdel, New Jersey.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
And like everybody else, pull that microphone real close.
You do need to grab a document.
Go ahead. I don't know.
Okay. Good.
Please, Delatorre, you noted that you are an attorney licensed in California, not in New Jersey, right?
Just bring the mic a little bit closer.
Is any of the testimony that you've offered today based on any legal knowledge, and it was because of the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
And what do you specialize in as far as heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems? Do you specialize in that? Did you go out to the closed site and inspect their heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system?
I do not.
Do you know if it's currently located on the roof of the premises?
It's not on the roof.
Do you know?
You know, I'm sorry, the microphone's not picking you up. I'm sorry,
Do you
you,
know where it is?
They're in various locations.
Can you tell us where they are?
I believe there's one on this side of the building next to the employee entrance. And then also in the front.
And what is on top of the building, do you know? Did you know that there's several aluminum tin ducts that were pointing up into the air, which are now extended over the building? Are you aware of what's there now?
I am not.
Did you testify that you would, the site would be utilizing the current ventilation system?
If it was found to be sufficient, yes.
Are you aware of what the back of the building currently looks like?
Yes, or not as of its condition today, no,
Do you know that there's several duct holes in the back of the building as well?
no.
Do you know how close the existing, the subject site is to the building immediately next to it, lot 19 on Rector Place?
I believe that would be for the engineering. Answer?
Can you tell me what the impact of the cannabis store would have on the immediate surrounding areas? The residential homes, the other businesses?
I don't believe it will have any impact.
It would not have any impact. I'm the owner of 58 Rector Place and I am 7 feet from the applicant as his establishment is right on the property line. Are you saying that there would be absolutely no impact on my law firm?
Well, the location is within a retail area and there's an ice cream place directly in front of it, so the uses are compatible.
The use is compatible with an establishment that predominantly serves children and families?
It's compatible for people to utilize the product.
And what of any safety issues with regard to the outside surrounding areas?
I'm not a safety expert.
Didn't you testify as to the safety and security plans being proposed?
I testified as to how the operation of the security plan.
Did you conduct any studies on the security? You testified that there would be surveillance for the inside of the store, correct?
Correct.
Is there any surveillance for the outside of the store?
Correct, all outside, as I pointed on the diagram. Here, this is 180 degrees.
You know, I'm sorry, for the record, just don't say here.
Oh, sorry.
Describe it. No, thank you.
On the front door, there's a camera that's 180 degree angle. There's also on the east and the west side of the building, there's two cameras that are facing in opposite directions that also cover the front door and the perimeter of the property.
Is that one on the back of the building? I see that.
This, correct, this
Right.
is 180 degrees.
That's 180 degrees and it surveils my building as well, correct? How many feet does that go out?
Yeah, really need to know how far, big picture.
The microphone.
Yeah,
To the mic.
I don't know, really, the question, because to me, it doesn't make sense. Chair.
If you lived 7 feet from that camera, I bet it would.
Yeah.
I mean, it would, if I lived 7 feet from that, or my office, whatever. If I had a bathroom in my office 7 feet from that camera, I'd want to know how far it takes picture. So I think it's a reasonable answer, a reasonable question.
and if you don't know the answer, that will get us somewhere else.
I don't know the answer.
And if there were a problem that you were able to see on that camera, how would you gain access to that area when he does not have access to the back of his building because he is on the property line and my property is fenced in? So what would happen if a privacy incident? How would they?
There's a crime being committed, you should call the police.
Okay. And, are you saying that there's not a heightened need for security?
No,
So, the security plan that you proposed or that you testified about, you discourage loitering, suspicious activity, criminal behavior, theft, and diversion of cannabis products. Is there a concern that that would occur?
no concerns for precautions.
Why do you need precautions if there's no concern?
Their grocery stores have security guards.
Do they have armed security guards?
They won't be armed
They won't be armed?
unless the Borough of Red Bank.
And then there's no safety or security concerns of the children outside of the establishment
Why?
if there's armed guards?
What's the
I
question?
was specified that there was no armed guards
Unless,
unless the Borough of Red Bank has requested it.
But there's a need for this heightened security policy, but you're telling me there's not a concern for safety.
I mean, I believe that it makes an area safer, if anything. Now you have surveillance all around you, so now you have an extra precaution for your building.
The applicant's paperwork says that the store will drive business to other retail businesses, including Lighthouse and Biravino. But there was no study done on the negative impact of my law firm, the security firm behind me, or the residents that live on the street. Is that correct? There's no comment about the impact to the rest of us. Is that correct?
I'm more than happy to take your comment.
Well, it was, this is not a time for comments, it's time for questions. She wanted to know, was there any study done of any negative impacts on the properties around?
There was a traffic study done.
But no study regarding crime or the uptick in crime? That covers it.
That wasn't required.
Did you consider the location of the other cannabis stores that are in the immediate vicinity or that will be up and operating shortly?
Yes.
And how does that impact the amount of customers coming to the proposed site?
You're being speculative because nothing is open at this time.
Well, there's one Monteverde that's open on Bridge Avenue.
So can you repeat the question?
So given that there is 4 approved sites, all within stone's throw of one another, how does that impact the number of trips to this store?
not a traffic expert.
Do you believe that, by situating 4 or 5 of cannabis stores, within a very close proximity to one another creates a destination draw?
No, grocery stores, I would compare them to grocery stores.
You're
They're all
comparing it
different.
to a grocery store? You talked about mitigating odor control. What plan is in place for that, just aside from the carbon filters?
It's an odor mitigation plan. The carbon filters, all product will be sealed. Within the secure storage area, it will also be all prepackaged. We will have and maintain regular cleaning on a daily basis.
Did you say that the employees would do light cleaning?
Correct.
What would that consist of?
Sweeping, mopping, making sure all the premises are clean and free of debris.
And what steps would the store take if there were to be odor emanating from the store? Because that could severely impact my business, my building, and the rest of the residential homes on the block.
So we have a complaint community, we have a complaint system where we have a community contact that you would be provided with a name and phone number. And if there was any issue from odor emanating, you would be able to contact them at whatever time of the day to inform them of the issue. They would do an investigation, and if the the complaint was substantiated, they would take the necessary steps to make sure that those are no longer disturbing yourself or the person who made the comments or the complaint.
With regard to customers possibly queuing outside and then mingling with the customers from White House Ice Cream, again predominantly families and children, or loitering about the sidewalks, how would you control that?
Well, sidewalks is not our, if they're loitering, the ice cream store is not our property, so I can't control anything that doesn't happen on the property.
I'm sorry, say that once more, the ice cream.
The ice cream store, what happens, you said that they're mingling in the parking lot, I can't control what happens on another business's parking lot.
Do you think that you have sufficient capacity for all of the customers, like the board said, in the event of inclement weather or backing up of queue?
Yes.
And how did you arrive at the estimate of 74 customers per day?
We figure that the traffic report that the traffic expert will testify to, that we would have about 8 to 10 customers per hour, given that the premises is open between 8 and 10 p.m. We roughly calculated about 74 per day.
So I understand that there was a letter issued on October 27, 2022, to you from the Borough of Red Bank stating that the subject site is not located within the boundaries of the borough's drug-free zone, or specifically within 1,000 feet of any school, park, housing authority, public or private youth center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you say that an establishment like White House Ice Cream that predominantly serves children and families could not be considered to be included in that group?
I don't know the definition of community family center that you're speaking of.
Okay, but isn't it possible that that could be included in the definition?
You're speculating.
I don't think so. Private youth center, ice cream parlor attracts children and families. You really think it's in a drug-free zone?
Yes,
Did you
per the
know that?
letter that was addressed on October 27th, 2022.
Did you know that a school bus stop is in front of Monteverde for the Red Bank Elementary School?
No,
Have you conducted site visits on the property?
yes.
What days have you gone out to the property to see it?
I've been working on this project since July of 2022. I don't have the exact dates.
Can you give me the amount of times that you've been out to the property?
I was out there this morning. I was out there April 4th, last year. March, sorry. This year I've probably been 5 times. 2023, I've probably been about 5 times.
Were you able to walk the surrounding areas?
Yes,
Did you note that there were family residential homes across the street?
yes,
Did you notice that there was a law firm in close proximity to the cannabis retail shop?
yes,
Did you notice that there was a security firm in very close proximity to the cannabis shop?
yes.
And you don't believe that any of those businesses would be impacted by the applicant?
No.
And what do you have that answer to base on? Based on what?
My personal knowledge of licensing many dispensaries.
And what New Jersey dispensary did you get a license for that is located within the very near vicinity of this community?
Saddlebrook, New Jersey,
How far away is that?
Maywood,
How far away is Saddlebrook? About an hour.
it's about an hour.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the public have any questions? Come on up, sir.
Name and address, please.
Chris Fabric, and 35 Rector Place.
All right, good evening and welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Thank you.
So you said that there would be no consumption at the facility in the near term. Does that mean that there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Say it again, please.
Councilor represented that there would be no consumption of cannabis at the facility in the near term.
If I could, I think the chair made it very clear that he didn't want to see any consumption.
We clarified none at all, ever.
Never gonna.
So in perpetuity, there would be no.
It'll be in the resolution.
So has the resolution already been drafted? Is this already?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm just saying that that would certainly be a condition for us. If we were to grant approval for this application tonight, many of the things that we're discussing now would be conditions that would go into a final resolution if there was ever an approval.
So you determined that coming into tonight that.
No, I wrote it down when we talked about it earlier.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And just to clarify, I apologize. I was just going off of the question, and I believe the question to me was in the near future, and so I just played off of that. There's gonna be no consumption whatsoever on the premises, just to clarify.
Counselor, when Mr. Kennedy asked you, what's gonna happen if the cars or the patrons outside of cars are stacking up outside of the facility because there are too many for the business to handle? Your first response, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that's not going to happen. Is that correct?
I might have said that.
And then after that, you said, well, it will happen when we first open. Is that correct?
Correct. When-
And then, go ahead, please. And then you said if it does happen, we're going to limit prospective buyers who are trying to get in the queue online. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you've given 3 different answers to the same question.
Well, those are all online orders, so you would be able to go in and it's like scheduling an appointment. So this is when I would go in to buy my product.
Just from where I'm sitting, don't you think that I would have concern about your credibility, given 3 different answers to the same question, and about your ability to respond in a knowledgeable way, based upon real anticipation and experience that you had? Don't you think it would cause me to have concerns about you as a representative of this company?
No, because the questions were asked, the answers that I provided were responses in different aspects, it just wasn't, I think you took them out of context. So for example, if there is an overflow of traffic, the security guard will come out and help direct traffic and flow of customers.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So the security guard is going to be credentialed to direct traffic.
They're not credentialed, no, they just help manage the flow of customers.
You said traffic.
Traffic is flow of customers.
So pedestrian traffic inside your building and on your lot, is that what you meant? Is that what you were representing? Or are you talking about vehicular traffic?
It would be both.
So do you have that plan to provide to the members of the planning board? How the employee of the business is going to direct traffic? Thank you. So you indicated that this spot that you've chosen for the business, you feel is an ideal location. Can you expand on that?
Sure, so typically with cannabis businesses, many operators prefer it to be a standalone building, much like this location. As I mentioned, it's right within the sweet spot of between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet. And it also exceeds all the buffer requirements, therefore making it an ideal location.
So, are you familiar with Rector Place?
Somewhat familiar, yes.
Tell me what you know.
Mr. Fabricant, direct questions about the testimony given, please.
Thank you. So Rector Place is a residential street. It has been a residential street for 150 years. Is it your testimony that the place of business is an ideal location, even though it opens onto a residential street with families and young children?
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect
You're talking to the microphone, please.
with all due respect to Mr. Fabricant, if he's trying to challenge the appropriateness of the zoning of the site, that objection should be brought to the governing body. The zoning is what it is, and this application complies with it. I don't see how it's relevant that he thinks the zoning is inappropriate given the nature of the surrounding properties.
I understand your point. Ms. Delatorre did say it was an ideal location. I believe she was testifying to the fact that it's an ideal location for the applicant. It's certainly not an ideal location for the objectors. I think we all can agree on that. But Mr. Mainardi is correct. It is permitted in the zone. So if you could focus your questions outside of anything that is beyond our control, or that's within our control, it would be helpful, because the fact that you might not think it's an ideal ideal location isn't quite that relevant because it is permitted in the zone.
So it's not relevant to you, Mr. Chairman, that the site is located on a residential street, or it's or because look, zoning covers an area. BR1 covers a pretty wide area.
Sure does.
And what I'm trying to get at here is Rector Place is so different than the rest of BR1. If for 150 years it's been a residential street.
Rector is a residential street. This property does not solely front on Rector Place. So if you've got another minute or so you want to talk about the zone, great. Otherwise, stick to the rest of the whatever else you have.
I think that point. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the public? On up, sir.
Just name and address, please.
Yes, John Talarico, 47 Rector Place.
All right, Mr. Talarico, thank you for attending. If you could just raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
Help me God.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions.
You know, just into the mic. Sensitive mic.
Question I had is that you evidently have a lot of experience of opening, you said Saddlebrook and Maywood, you said? Based on that information and all the experience that you have a crime profile based on experience? So what, after you become established, if the crime's gone up and crime gone down, is there a profile or analysis done on it?
I have never done a profile or analysis, but there have been several studies that have come out that have reflected that crime has actually decreased.
But that's in other cities, though,
Not specific.
Massachusetts, I've heard things like that, but,
This one was for California,
yeah,
so correct.
okay. And then the other question was, it's along the same vein, values. Is there some kind of study that says that property values have gone up or come down? Because Record Place has gone over, if I may just digress for a moment, a massive renovation. Homes have been renovated, homes have been fixed up, and so our concern is the investment we made into our homes, and we want to know if we're going to experience a decrease in the valuation or not, based on experience and based on your experience.
Solely my opinion.
Okay.
What you're asking for?
No, I thought maybe you had some kind of data.
There, again, there's.
And you know, what, could I just interject for 1 second now? And I don't want to not have you testify, but if you're not, and I'm not saying this, but if you're not qualified to testify as to values, I don't think you can testify. And like I said, but if you are qualified, you can.
Not qualified, that's why I was asking, like, is this an opinion? So I apologize, no.
So are you aware of any studies that reflect a change up or down in property values after a cannabis retailer opens in a neighborhood?
I am aware of the studies that have occurred and property values have gone up. I don't have the title, I can give you the name of the study, but just given, you know, economics, when you look at a property, typically the lease rate is much higher than a normal business. Also, the purchase price typically is much higher, on a commercial building, therefore driving the property values up.
Are you aware of any studies relating to residential values? Because I think that's what the folks on Record Place are asking.
Yes.
So if you're aware of those, if you could provide those to Shauna at some point, I cannot imagine we're gonna finish tonight. So if you could provide that to our office, we appreciate it. And we
Sure.
happily share that with the public.
And I'm gonna squeeze in one more question. This is more in terms of the building. In light of recent reports and crime reports that you have gangs that come in and they break the window and they can crash in with 20 people and robbing everything. I would be worried more about the glass that you have out of that place. For a question?
No, it's not a question, but I share your thought, which is why I asked about the glass.
Okay, no, I was gonna say, question was, are you planning on reinforcing some kind of wall or something behind that glass or something, maybe even some kind of metal grating or something like that? So that would.
Fair question.
We would take that into consideration if that's something that the board would prefer. But at this time, there's no plans for that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And just so everybody knows, the security plan, there's obviously a lot of detail from the state when security plans are created, and they have to be acceptable to the local police department. We're not going to get into specific security issues here. It was a thought for me because there's a lot of glass there. But as far as your security plan, it's okay with the state and it's okay with the chief of police in Red Bank. We're certainly not going to get into the fine details of that here. Does anyone else in the public have any other questions so far?
For a comment section?
There is. It is unlikely that it will be tonight. But yes, we do comments at the end, and people can speak for 5 minutes each. And then if we still have time and you've got something new to say, you're welcome to come back up at that time. Any other questions from anyone?
I have a couple questions just to follow up.
Sure. Why don't you pull that other mic over so we can get it on, please? Thank you.
So there was a question about surveillance cameras and coverage of surveillance cameras. Am I correct that state law requires exterior surveillance cameras?
Correct.
And what is surveillance? Okay, and then on odor mitigation, am I correct that an odor mitigation plan has to be prepared as part of the cannabis application?
That's correct.
Is it the application to the local government or the state or both?
Every municipality is different. Red Bank did not require that when we received our resolution, but we did, it was required in our conditional application to the state.
And that odor mitigation plan was approved?
Correct.
Okay, I have nothing else.
If I could just ask one question, just for the record, just the applicant is Two River Greens LLC. Now, and this might not be a question for you, ma'am, and if it's not, we can direct it, but do they have experience in the cannabis industry, or is that a question that we'll get somewhere else?
They do. So one of the owners, Selena Murford, she has been in the cannabis industry, opening stores in Michigan, owning and operating stores in Michigan under an affiliated brand.
And how long is,
Owner.
okay, and how long has that been roughly? If you know.
I believe it's, since, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, fine. And then the last thing is, I know you testified about the loading and unloading process, and just generally speaking, barring something unusual, how long does that process last? I know you said 2 or 3 times a week. Does it last 20 minutes?
Deliveries?
Yeah,
I mean, they try to be in and out as quickly as possible just because they are getting there before business hours,
Right.
so it can be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes at max.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next.
Well, Mr. Burt, please.
All right, good evening. If you could just state your name, please.
Matthew Birch, B-E-R-S-C-H.
B-E-R,
S-C-H.
okay. Matthew, if you could just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
And just for the record, you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed, certified.
Professional engineer.
Thank you.
First, would you give the board the benefit of your professional qualifications?
Absolutely. So my name is Matthew Birch, B-E-R-S-C-H. I'm with Dynamic Engineering, 1904 Main Street. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I have a bachelor's of science in civil engineering from Rutgers University. I have over 12 years of experience in the field of land development. I'm a principal at Dynamic Engineering. I've been accepted by over 30 boards throughout the state of New Jersey.
Main Street where?
Lake Como,
Okay, you didn't say, I was just wondering.
1904 Main Street, Lake Como, sorry.
Okay, if no one has an objection, I'm happy to accept you as an expert in the field of professional engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Birch, have you prepared engineering drawings respecting subject application?
You know what? The mic's not picking you up. We're gonna,
Look close.
I'm sorry.
Thank
you?
Someday we're gonna get like Taylor Swift headphone mics.
right.
The lapel mic, right. Have you prepared engineering drawings, or have you, on behalf of your firm, prepared engineering drawings respecting this application?
Yes, my firm prepared the drawings.
Okay, could you describe the nature of the application to the board, please?
Absolutely. So I think it would be best to describe the existing area. I know everybody's familiar.
And should I mark this into the record? Have we marked this aerial view?
This is an aerial map that was submitted as part of our site plan.
Oh, it was submitted? Okay, thank you.
I'll just run through existing conditions, the location. Everybody's familiar, but I'll touch on it briefly, and then I'll get into improvements.
That's very good, thank you.
So this is the aerial map, sheet 2 from site plan set. That was last revised 3/26/2024. For the board's orientation, north is to the right side of the page. So the subject property, although small, it's located directly in the center of this page. It's outlined in yellow. The site is just over 0.2 acres. So it's only 8,790 square feet. The lot is a unique shape. It has frontage on both Rector Place to the west and Bridge Ave to the east, as you're aware. The adjacent uses to the north is the Lighthouse Ice Cream with Riverside Ave beyond, which is Route 35. To the east is Bridge Ave with office and residential uses beyond. To the south is the law office and a commercial use, which is Marion Security. And to the west is Rector Place with residential uses beyond. I'd like to note that all of the adjacent uses to the northeast and south are all located in the same BR1 zoning district, with the uses to the west in the RB2 district. So the existing site contains a 2,224 square foot laundromat with existing site improvements, such as driveways, sidewalks, parking stalls, drive aisles. And access to the existing site is provided via two full movement driveways, one located on Rector Place to the west and Bridge Ave to the east. This next exhibit is an existing conditions exhibit. This was not previously submitted. So this was prepared by my office dated it was updated 4/15/2024.
All right, so hold on, we're gonna mark this, what are we up to, Eleni? A16, and A16 is what are we calling it?
Site.
Existing conditions exhibit.
Existing conditions, exhibit prepared by Dynamic.
That's correct.
All right, and dated April 15th, 2024. Thank you.
How is this different from page 13 of your submission, site photo exhibit.pdf dated March 4th? I'm just wondering, because I can see this one better because it's in front of me. Is there any difference in these photos?
We just updated the clarity of the photos on the left side. There's really no difference. The photos are the same.
They look pretty much the same.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same.
Okay.
Just slightly updated.
All right.
So the images on the left side are taken from Google Street View. The image on the right is from a site visit from November of 2023. Should say the Google Street View images are from November 2024. So the view on the top left corner is from Bridge Ave. You can see the front of the laundromat facility. If you can see it, there's faded parking stall striping on site. The site is really devoid of landscaping. You can see the driveway here on Bridge Ave. It's really just open asphalt from the site that leads to the street. There's no sidewalk, there's no curbing. And the existing building also has wall-mounted sign directly in the center. The image on the bottom left here, again, this is from Bridge Avenue, just a slightly different point along that frontage. Shows a different angle of the site. Again, you can see it's devoid of landscaping, and really in need of some upgrades. And then the last image on the right here is a view from the Rector Place side of the site. Again, it's looking at the front and side of the building. You can see some existing utility equipment, the wall pack lighting that's on the site around the building, a small decrepit sidewalk along with the building frontage. And just off the image to the right side, there's what's called a refuse area. It's really two dumpsters that sit out in the open in the asphalt area just to the right here. So these existing conditions images really just show that the building is relatively small, the site is relatively small. The extents of the existing improvements go to the property line. As mentioned earlier, the building is almost directly on the property line to the south side. So there are a number of existing non-conforming elements about this site, just given site size of the building, and the previous build out. This next exhibit is the site plan sheet, which is sheet 4 from the site plan set, last revised 3/26/2024. So I believe it's that can be entered. This exhibit has the same orientation as the first aerial map that I had presented, with north being to the right side of the page. So the proposed development is obviously a retail cannabis use. It's conditionally permitted in the BR1 district, and it meets all of the conditional use requirements. The cannabis dispensary will obviously occupy the existing building on site, with no modifications to the footprint. Some upgrades that are being proposed, and it's really minor. As we're occupying the existing building, the proposed site improvements are limited. But we are making modifications to the driveways, circulation, parking, lighting, landscaping, and sidewalks. First, I'll start with access. So there will remain driveways located on Bridge Avenue and Rector Place, and generally the same location that they are today. However, We are proposing to channelize those driveways. So we're gonna shrink the curb cut for each use. We're gonna install curbing in order to do that along both frontages. And we're also going to provide concrete aprons and sidewalk across each driveway. The Bridge Ave driveway will be reduced from a curb cut of 49.5 feet to 31.9 feet.
I'm sorry, so what's gonna be reduced?
The Bridge Ave curb cut
Thank
for
you.
the driveway. Existing is 49.5, proposed will be 31.9. And along Rector Place, we'll be reducing the driveway curb cut from 66 feet to 35. So while mentioning the modifications to the driveway, it's appropriate to mention that we will be modifying the circulation and traffic movements and exiting this facility. The Bridge Ave driveway will become an entrance only driveway, so 2 movements, right in, left in. And the Rector Place driveway will be an exiting driveway only, so right out and a left in, 2 movements at both driveways. Both driveways have adequate site visibility. The Rector Place driveway is stop controlled. It is designed to be safe and efficient for both customer vehicles and pedestrians. So now that I mentioned the driveway movements, in turn, the interior drive aisle is being modified from 2-way to 1-way with a minimum width of 20.5 feet. Off of that 1-way drive aisle, which runs east to west, we're proposing 11 parking stalls, including 1 ADA stall and 2 compact stalls, whereas 9 parking stalls are required for this use.
I'm sorry, so 9 are required and you're proposing
11.
11 proposed, and I'm sorry, how many ADA?
1 is an ADA stall and 2 are compact.
Thank you.
So the parking stalls are of some different size and orientation. There's 6 angled parking stalls located along the building frontage. These are 9 by 18. There's also 1 angled stall that's 9 by 16 located along the western side of the frontage, close to the Rector Place driveway. We're also proposing 3 parallel stalls that are 9 by 22 along the northern property line. And there's 1 9 by 16 compact stall located on the east side of the building frontage.
Quick question, what was your distance again from the parallel spaces to the edge of the angled spaces? The width of your drive aisle?
It's modified slightly in different locations, but the minimum is 20.5. So essentially a 20.5 1-way drive aisle.
Okay.
There's a small location on the west side where it expands just over 25 feet. And the perpendicular stall can back out, and all movements from all cars parking on site can be done without entering the right of way or approaching over the property. All stalls are also going to be striped as hairpin. So we are requesting a few design waivers with respect to the parking configuration. We're parking within a front yard between the building and the right of way. That's out there today. There's actually multiple parking stalls on the west side of the building and on the east side of the building. We're eliminating those parking stalls that are actually on the sides of the building and shifting them to, I shouldn't say that. We're shifting all parking to the north side of the building. And the parking stalls, it's really just a portion of parking stalls that encroach further into the front yard. It's not the entire stall. And that's along both frontages.
That's an existing condition?
It's an improvement over an existing condition.
When he's talking, I can't follow it.
You have a laser pointer over there?
Oh, he does, but I'm showing it on a different, so. There's.
I mean, I would recommend people here in the meeting look at the laser pointer to the page he's pointing out over there. And if you want to stand closer or sit over there in that first row of seats, which are empty, you're welcome to. We recognize the problem of sitting over there and looking at that. It's worse for us. So I would recommend moving over if you want a better view.
We're also.
Welcome to sit there.
We're also requesting a design waiver, as we're not providing curved landscaped island, where there is parking in the front yard. We do provide a curved island on the east side, the Bridge Avenue frontage. However, there is not a curb provided on the west side, as that's where the trash activity will be taking place.
And again, that condition is already existing, right?
That is correct. And we're also requesting one more design waiver. ADA stalls in the borough ordinance are required to be 12 feet wide. We are proposing an 8-foot wide ADA stall with an 8-foot access aisle, which is standard in the industry.
And is there any handicap stall at the property?
You know, I'm just grab the mic. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that the record is perfectly clear.
On the property right now?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We're improving the sidewalk along the building frontage, so that's the north side of the building. We are proposing a 6-foot sidewalk at the head of the angled parking stalls, replacing the existing sidewalk that's there today. This sidewalk will be mostly flush along a majority of the building facade, and we are proposing bollards at the head of each of those parking stalls that fronts on the building. The sidewalk decreases to 4 feet as you head west along the frontage, and then along the eastern frontage, we are providing an accessible route from that building sidewalk out to the Bridge Avenue right away. They're proposing a 6-foot board on board fenced trash enclosure along the west side of the building. Again, there's the existing trash operation where happens in that location now. Right now, there's 2 dumpsters out there. We will be proposing that screening with a front gate, and we anticipate there will be 4 95-gallon black trash cans on wheels within that enclosure. So now that I've outlined the majority of the site improvements, I'd like to note that there are a few existing non-conformances associated with the existing building. As I said, we're occupying the existing building, so these elements aren't changing. There's an existing front yard setback of 19.4 feet along Bridge Avenue, whereas 25 feet will remain, or is required. That setback will remain. There's a 0.5 foot setback along the southern property line, whereas 10 feet is required. Again, that's to the existing building. That's not changing. To the extent that I have to note the existing non-conformance for lot frontage. We had noted it as complied as we totaled up the lot frontage from both Rector Place and Bridge Avenue. However, the board engineer noted that we may have to note this as an existing non-conformance, and that's the lot frontage along Rector Place is 74.85 feet, whereas 100 feet is required. Again, existing condition. There's also an existing non-conformance for open space. There's 1.23% open space on the site, so it's almost entirely impervious coverage. We're improving that condition to 4.28%. 15% is required, but it is an improvement. So with that said, we're not requesting any new variances or exacerbating any existing non-conformances. We are proposing a new paneling of the existing wall-mounted sign. That sign will meet all state and local standards.
As well as the requirements of the conditional use that it not be taken care of.
That's correct. We're proposing 51 new evergreen and deciduous shrubs on this site. As I showed you earlier in those existing conditions photos, there's hardly any landscaping on site today.
Show us where those are, please, with your pointers so everybody can see.
There's pockets in all 4 corners of the site. So behind the trash enclosure in the northwest corner adjacent to the driveway in Rector Place. And similarly on both sides of the frontage, the driveway leading out to Bridge Avenue. Down here in the northeast corner and the southeast corner. So the landscaping is spread out throughout the development to the extent that it can be. We're also providing those evergreen shrubs that do grow larger than this trash enclosure to assist with screening. There was a comment in the board engineer's review letter to modify the species of that. We would agree to do so. to the satisfaction of the board engineer. I'd like to note a couple of design waivers that are needed associated with the landscaping. Again, we're limited on open space. We did what we could to improve the situation. We are required to provide a 5-foot landscape strip alongside and rear property lines. That is our southern property line, which again, our building is only a 1/2 foot from the property line. And the extent of the parking area, both in existing and proposed conditions, is directly adjacent to the northern property line. And then we are also requesting a design waiver from providing the one tree that is required. As we do have 250 square feet of open space, 1 tree is required. The applicant would prefer to pay a fee in lieu of providing that 1 tree. Some additional improvements include new lighting. We will be providing 2 pole mounted fixtures, both in the northwest and northeast corners of the site. Those are mounted at 12 feet. And there will be 6 wall sconces, 4 of them are located on the northern facade, 1 on the west and 1 on the east. All of these fixtures are LED fixtures. They're low profile design, full cutoff, and downward facing to reduce spillage off-site. We are proposing a minimum of 0.7 foot candle throughout the customer pedestrian space in the parking. The board engineer noted a hotspot in the lighting design that somehow made it up to 24-foot candles. We will work to reduce that significantly to the satisfaction of the board engineer. All the lighting is designed to be safe. It's adequate for this use. The driveways are well lit, the parking areas are well lit. There is a design waiver for some minor light spillage in excess of 0.5 foot candles. Along the Rector Place frontage, there's 2 foot candles at the driveway location. And along the bridge driveway, there's 1.4 foot candles again at the property line.
How far do those spill out?
I was just gonna touch on that. They're less than 0.1 foot candles at the middle of the road along both frontages. And then on the north side, this northern property line, the light levels will be 1.2 foot candles at the property line. However, that's going into the lighthouse parking lot. And the board engineer supported that design waiver as well. And I should mention there is no spillage to the south, as all the lighting is focused on the north side of the building. As far as stormwater, we are not proposing any new stormwater facilities as this development doesn't exceed 1 acre of disturbance, and we're not proposing more than a 1/4 acre of impervious coverage. So we're not required to comply with any of the stormwater requirements of the state or the borough, but we are maintaining existing drainage patterns. And I noted before, we are slightly decreasing impervious coverage on site.
I'm sorry, and what's the decrease?
They're slightly decreasing it.
Slightly, okay,
I don't have the exact number.
Okay.
Somewhere around 200 square feet.
Thank you.
across. And then as far as utility connections, I was mentioned earlier, we will be utilizing the existing utility service connections to the site. And the applicant does agree to pay the offsite water vulnerability fee. We will work with the board's professionals to address any of the technical comments that I didn't address directly. Really, in summary, we're proposing a conditionally permitted use that meets all of the conditions. It doesn't propose any new variances, and there's stuff to do on a uniquely shaped lot such as this with 2 frontages and it being a through lot. We are updating the site by modernizing it, cleaning up the driveways, cleaning up circulation, adding landscaping. I think it better integrates with the surrounding area. And as I mentioned, there's really minimal site work. There's really nothing all that new that we will be proposing to the exterior of the site. It's really just enhancements and upgrades.
You might not have the answer to this question, but you mentioned the backside of the property. On your survey, there are many vent pipes noted coming out of the back of the building. What is your plan related to those pipes?
So It's my understanding that some of the utilities that are on the exterior of the building are related to the existing use and wouldn't necessarily be needed under proposed conditions for the proposed use. It's my understanding they will be removed to the extent that they need to be for pending.
So these appear from, I'm guessing these are vent pipes for the laundromat.
I would have the same assumption that you have.
So go ahead.
I can help with that.
Sure.
I've been involved with some laundromat work, and the way these things work is each dryer has its own stack. Because if you combine two ducts, the air can back up into the facility, so they put separate stacks for each dryer. So the dryers will be removed, stacks would be out of service.
So the stacks will be moved and there won't be any more vent pipes for the dryers out at the back of the building.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not, seems to me one of the plans I've been looking at indicates that they're there to remain. So I think there's an open question about, what the configuration of the HVAC system.
That's for. This is the vent pipes out the back of the building, is your concern, Mr. B?
As a civil site engineer, I don't think we have a full grasp on all the utilities that happen inside of the building and every single pipe that comes out of it, especially when it's on the raised above the ground.
These look like 6-inch sheet metal elbows coming out of the back. They look exactly what you would need for high capacity dryers.
Yeah, to the extent that they can be removed from the proposed use, they will.
I think they need to be removed if they are dryer vents. I think they need to go.
We'll agree to remove all dryer vents.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, along with that, I think, I need a better sense of what the HVAC systems are going to be, where they're going to be located, rooftop, along with any, odor mitigation venting. There is no schematic that I've seen so far tonight that indicates, those utilities.
Mr. Minority, do you have someone to testify to that, or do you have a specific plan, or would you like to submit?
The engineer's drawing depicts the existing HVAC units on the ground to the north and south of the building, right next to the building.
Yeah, they look like a neighborhood in Shanghai that just got air conditioning last week. It does not look like a modern facility with, well, as Mr. Beebe said, there doesn't appear to be any specific plan for odor mitigation. But these really look like you slapped them, not you, really looks like they were slapped on the building, you know, when air conditioning was invented and haven't been touched since. Well, actually, they look much newer than that, which is even worse. So I think we would like to see a plan on where they would properly go, because it looks horrible.
Understood.
Does anyone from the board have any questions? Is it Birch or Birch? Birch, for Mr. Birch.
Forget the state.
I wrote it down, I just wasn't sure. Anyone from the public have any questions for Mr. Birch? Ms. Costantino was first. So grab that mic, speak closely into it, please, and remember you're still under oath.
Thank you. Have you been out to the proposed site to look at what the top of the building currently looks like?
I have not evaluated the top of the building.
Did you know that changes were recently made to the top of the building, to the smokestacks, and they were extended out several feet over the top of the building?
I was unaware.
Did you know that that is a result of the Monmouth County Department of Health requiring that a ventilation system be added to the building because there currently is not one?
I was unaware.
Mr. Birch, pull that mic closer, please.
Are you aware of the amount of dryers currently in the facility?
I'm not.
Maybe we can, if I could, do you have any knowledge at all what was on the inside of the building?
I do not.
So you don't know where the air intake is, whether those holes in the back of the building are actually air intakes?
I know from visual inspection that there's air conditioning units and split units around the perimeter of the building.
You testified that you were not, or the applicant was not exacerbating non-conforming uses. Would you say that being 6 inches off the property line and now changing the use to a cannabis store does not exacerbate a non-conforming use?
I'll reject the question, to be honest with this expertise.
I'm sorry, speaking to the mic.
I'll object to the question as being beyond this witness's expertise.
Well,
He's a planner, isn't he?
No, he's the engineer.
I'm not-
Just an engineer, not a
Yeah,
planner?
that's correct.
Listen, my best friend's an engineer, okay? I'm not knocking engineers, please.
He testified that it was not exacerbating a non-conforming use, and there's a 10-foot setback that's required, and right now, we could reach out and touch one another, and I'm not at all feeling that there is going to be mitigation of odor control, because there isn't right now.
Well, he testified that the design waivers he's asking for are not being exacerbated by the change of use, correct?
Correct. There are no modifications to the building, so.
So ask your question again, so I'm clear exactly what you're asking him.
You had testified that you were not exacerbating a non-conforming use, and the one that I'm referring to is that the building is 6 inches from the property line, making it 7 foot from my building. Are you aware of that close proximity?
I have to go back to the first thing you said. I didn't say that we're not exacerbating a non-conforming use. So we're not exacerbating any existing variances.
And design waivers, that's what I understood he testified to. If I'm wrong, but I don't think he testified to the use. He testified to the design waivers. There are no variances. He testified that the design waivers weren't being exacerbated.
My comment is to the non.
I can't do comments now, or I have to let everybody do comments.
You testified that the traffic would be entering on Bridge Avenue and either a right or left outside of onto Rector Place, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you study the traffic flow, or would be the traffic expert?
That would be the traffic engineer.
Are you aware of the impact that the train has when it comes into town onto Rector Place?
I don't believe the train is on Rector Place.
The train
The train.
passes over Rector
Not technically, but
Place, right up the road.
right, see, technically, no, but yes, it does, but I think that's a better question for the traffic.
I'll save
engineer.
it for traffic.
I have the same question.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Ms. Viscomi, come on up.
All right, just state your name and address.
Name is Scully, 25 Cedar Street.
Hello, good to see you. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God? Thank you.
My first question is, you highlighted parking spots. Just for the record, how many parking spots are exactly there?
We're proposing 11.
So earlier, they testified, 60 employees? So let's say it's 6, you have 5 parking spots open to the public. Then earlier you testified on how many people you're thinking of coming in, customers to service. In prior, I guess retails that came in, you had only, you proposed to buy other parking spots in town. Where do you propose to overflow and go?
I believe it was mentioned there would be 4 to 6 employees.
You gotta pull that mic close, you gotta pull it close.
I believe that it was mentioned there would be 4 to 6 employees, but ultimately I'm gonna have to defer that question to the traffic engineer.
Okay, but still 6 is doing about,
Valid question, but maybe not for Mr. Birch.
okay. When there's snow coming down, where do you guys assume to plow it so you're not covering parking?
So there actually is some additional space on both the western and eastern side of the building. It's not occupied by a drive aisle, doesn't impact circulation, doesn't impact parking. So I imagine those areas would be used for snow storage.
Thank you. Is there, I might have missed it, is there one-way traffic from Bridge to Rector through the parking lot, or is there two-way traffic with ingress and egress at both Bridge and Rector?
One-way traffic from Bridge to Rector.
And I thought I saw a design, is this an iteration of a previous design that didn't have the angled parking places? Or is that how it's always been?
I can't answer that.
All right, so, you said, there would be two movements at both driveways. What does that mean?
The Bridge Avenue driveway,
Yes.
people can turn left in and turn right in.
Got it,
And then at the Rector Place driveway, people can turn right out or left out.
got it. You said that there would be safe and efficient driveway movements. Just, can you expand on that?
The driveways meet all of the local ordinance requirements for width of driveways, width of drive aisles. There's adequate site visibility at the exiting driveway on Rector Place. And the driveway on Rector Place is also stop control.
So when you make that statement, efficient, do you take into account traffic pattern?
I think to an extent, when I say efficient, I mean that a car can make one swift movement exiting the site. And entering the site, there's not any need for turning around, stopping halfway, going abnormally slow or fast to make that movement. It's a normal movement.
So if I may, your remark did not take into account traffic pattern and or congestion at the site.
I would say it's based on site design and layout.
Right, so it's not based upon the unique features of this site relative to congestion and traffic pattern. Thank you.
We work with the project team to develop this layout and develop the treatments. So to an extent,
Sorry, it wasn't the question. So you didn't take into account.
Well, we're here for questions, so and I think where you're going is probably best. The efficient comment was his, fair enough, but I think where you're going is probably the traffic engineer, but if you want to wrap this into some kind of question, please go ahead.
I think you're right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else from the public have any questions? Anyone else from the board have any questions? I'm looking at the clock. What do you have next?
Traffic engineer. That'll be our last word.
How long do you think his testimony is going to be?
That'll be brief.
Brief. You're not a lawyer? I love your answer, brief. It's like when I asked my mother what time dinner was and she said soon. Which could mean anything. Okay, come on up.
Thank you.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Red Bank Planning Board. If you could just state your name and business address, please.
My name is Victor. I'm a kid. Last name is spelled ANOSIKE.
Okay, and your business address?
Is 460 Veterans Drive in Burlington.
Right. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
Yes.
And for the record, you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed and certified.
Traffic and professional engineer, specific in traffic engineering and traffic operations.
Thank you.
Why don't you have a seat for the mouth right next to the microphone. Good evening. Would you see, Mr. Anasaki, give the board the benefit of your professional qualifications? I have over 30 years experience in 25 years of that has been in traffic and transportation. I have testified before several boards in New Jersey. I also have been traffic consultant to different municipal planning boards, and zoning boards. On a lot of the cannabis towns in New Jersey. What kind of them? I have the benefit of being the board side and on the private client side.
Okay, without any objection to the board, I'm happy to accept the qualifications as a professional engineer specializing in traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Have you done a traffic and parking analysis of the subject project? Mr. Anasaki? Yes. Explain to the board the results of that study. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just gonna go straight to the key issues. I did the traffic trip generation to estimate how much traffic that the site will generate once it's operational.
let me say, the building itself is 2,224 square footage. By all standards, it's a microsite. It's very minimal. And so you can see from the traffic study, the number of trips that it generates. It's deemed insignificant. From New Jersey DOT, the ITE standards will deem any site that generates 100 new trips or above as significant. But this site, in the worst case scenario, generates 64 trips on a Saturday. Now, bear in mind that when we're talking about trips, we're not talking about vehicles. Trip, it's a one-way movement. So when a vehicle goes to the site, it's one trip. When it leaves the site, it's another trip. So the 64 trips will be 32 vehicles in the peak hour. So it's not 64 vehicles when we talk about trips. So just bear that in mind for those who are familiar with that. So I also looked at what uses are permitted to compare, assuming that this cannabis is not built. What else can be built here? We looked at what are zones in that area. Convenience store. The convenience store will generate on a Saturday 176 trips. Fast food restaurant, the drive-through will generate 121. Coffee, donut shop, without a drive-through, will generate 207 trips in the morning. Now this cannabis will be generating only 64 trips on a Saturday. So you can see why you can conclude and consider the trips very insignificant in terms of traffic impact. I also looked at the trips that's existing on Rector, which is the county road 13. There's a New Jersey DOT count station or count that they have about a mile away from there. And the daily trips, the annual daily trips at that location is about 17,000 vehicles per day. So this site will be generating approximately 141 vehicles per day, which is less than 1% of additional traffic on that roadway. Now, the daily fluctuation of traffic, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, traffic fluctuates, ranges in the neighborhood of 5 to 10%. So on a daily basis, you can see traffic fluctuating within that 5%. This site is only going to be adding 0.8%, which is less than 1%. So it's actually less than the actual daily fluctuation traffic. Again, that makes it very, very significant. I will touch quickly on the site circulation. It's one way in and out. It's two movements, so less conflicts. When you talk about traffic operations, you trying to minimize conflicts. So there are two there are actually one conflict point, those left turns. The right turns do not have any conflict. You just look for gap, they turn. So by making it one way from one direction to the other direction, we have reduced a lot of conflict points. And that makes the operation very, very safe. I went out there and took counts of the number of gaps that are available for cars to merge on 613. In the peak hour of this site's operation, I was able to count over 120 gaps, acceptable gaps. Now, a gap is the time it takes. If you mark a point, in this case, it's going to be the driveway. The time it takes from the rear bumper of the first car that passes that point to the front bumper of the next car that is coming. That's the gap. It's the time you take. Critical gaps are 4, 5 seconds. Most drivers accept different gaps. Depends on some people. Some drivers might accept a gap that is less now and accept another one that is longer, less time. It depends on, but in general, gaps are between 6 to 10 seconds. I was able to determine that you have more than 100 gaps in the peak hour. And the site, like I testified before, in the worst case scenario on a Saturday, will be 32 vehicles in the peak hour. So there will be more than enough gap for them to merge into the roadway. Also, I looked at the parking. The township requirements, based on the township requirements, 9 spaces are required by the township ordinance. But I didn't stop there. I wanted to look at what the ITE also ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and it's a nationally recognized standard, which is most townships either use it to develop their own ordinances. So the ITE standard has average rates. Based on the average rates, 12 spaces will be required. I've got a comment from the township engineer, the borough's engineer, that wanted us to look at the 85th percentile rate. The 85th percentile rate for parking demand is 26. It is 26. Whereas, well, let me kind of pause here a little bit because there's some comments that need to address. The parking demand parking demand is used in 2 ways. One way is the number of parking spaces that should be provided or recommended to provide. The other one is the expected accumulation of vehicles within the design hour. So those are the 2 ways you can interpret parking demand. Now, the number of parking spaces that should be provided could be over need. So for example, in this study that the 85th percentile that ITE has done for a 30,000 square footage dispensary. The parking demand is 26 spaces, which is what should be provided. Let me back up. 85th percentile, for those who don't understand, is the level, they studied 11 sites. So 85% of all the sites that were studied, that's what the 85% means. Out of the 85% of all the sites that were studied, they had 26 spaces.
That was for how many square feet?
For like 3,000 average, 3,000 square feet
3,000.
average.
Okay.
Okay, outside, again, is lower than that. But they also found something else. These sites that provided 26 spaces had 55% occupancy average. So at the peak time, which suggested that only 12 spaces were parked at the peak time, and the rest of the parking spaces were empty. So again, it ties to the township's requirement of 9. If you look at the ITE's analysis, it brings it to about 12, which ITE, at least for this land use, is a little conservative. The land use that ITE has is a marijuana dispensary. The marijuana dispensary was based on studies that were done at the earlier stages when the marijuana dispensary, the medicinal, and the retail, recreational use came in place in places like Colorado, Nevada, not even here. So what happened at the time those studies were done, because they were also new, there were people traveling from different states going to that place because of the emerging business. So the ITE rates are more conservative. They're kind of a little too high in terms of numbers. Experience has shown, and we've done studies, one of the bigger dispensary in New Jersey, the Zenleaf, I don't know if anybody is familiar with that, Lawrence Township. When they started first in 2021, there was a whole long line on Off Route 1, which is like an interstate. So there's a lot of pass-by traffic, a lot of people stopping by to the novelty phase of it. So, but now we did studies while, as a sitting on the board in Lawrence Township, we did extra studies after all and found out that the traffic has been trending low. The lines that we saw at the beginning, no longer there. With every business, when they open, there's always that rush, the novelty phase. When people get familiar with the way the business runs, traffic will eventually get better. So, having said that, the parking we have provided is 11 spaces. I believe one of the residents had a question about the employees, 5 employees. Now, the cannabis retail business is not your typical retail where, or shopping center where people park for an extended length of time. There's a turnover rate. It's regulated by the operation, the online ordering. They can stagger, when people come to pick up. They can regulate how many cars can come at a time by using those measures. So typical turnover rate is within 5 to 10 minutes. Initially when they started, it was 10 to 15, but now people are getting used to it. They know what to do. When they know the products to order. So transaction times are now between 5 to 10 minutes. Now, in an hour, that will give you an equivalent of 6 to 12 times turnover. So for 11 spaces, you can actually service anywhere between 66 to 132 vehicles within that peak hour. This site will only generate 32 peak hour vehicles. So I don't think, based on the numbers, site circulation, the gaps that are available for operation, the traffic impact will be very minimal. And there will be no adverse operations expected on either the County Road 13, which is Rector Place, or Bridge Avenue. I think I'll stop there and I can take any questions.
Mr. Amasaki, I have one question. You mentioned you,
Just, Mike,
I'm sorry, you mentioned, Mr. Amasaki, that you relied on some traffic counts from the site about a mile away.
Yes.
And the municipal engineer takes exception to that in her report. And I wonder what your response to that is.
Well, the information we put there is going to put the impact into context. We're not required to do a count on Rector Place. There's an existing count a mile away. There's no major trip generator in between. It's only driveways, residential driveways or streets. The traffic volume between that spot that it counts we're taking a driveway, whether it's a drop, a sink, or an increase, cannot be significant. So the information was put there to compare how much of the new site traffic will be added to the existing. That is very insignificant. So I don't think that the fact that the location was a mile away would change the conclusions.
And one of the members of the public pointed out that there's a cannabis dispensary pretty much across the street from this location. What is the impact of that on your analysis?
Well, if any, again, the existing use at this site is a laundromat. In the analysis we did, we didn't take credit for existing traffic. So if anything, traffic will be spread. The traffic we're estimating to come to this site will actually be reduced if there are competing uses around. It's going to spread around them. So it's a good thing if there are competing uses. It will reduce the impact of traffic to this site.
I have nothing further.
Jackie, do you have any questions?
I do, Chair. So in terms of the 85th percentile, I would just need maybe you could send me the section in the ITE that says that the 85th percentile is based off of the number of parking spaces that are available in those sites that you mentioned, because it's our understanding that the 85th percentile is the peak demand of an equivalent size cannabis facility. And that you can't take 55% and apply it to the peak because that's the peak. That's the highest that it could get. So what ITE, in our opinion, is saying is that the site could generate would need 26 parking spaces, and you don't have that. So if you could send me the section in ITE that explains how you explained it, we're more than happy to look at it, but we don't agree with that at this point.
You won't see an IT anywhere the ITE explains this. But it's the terminology and terms that are the things that are overriding. The parking demand, even in that 83 percentile, in the trip, and I put all that in the report. You can see that ITE also has two methods. There is the average, the rate, of which the rate gave you the notice. But if you use the fitted equation, you get 14.
Which is still more than what you have.
Well, I understand. I didn't say anything, in our report, we did say that it's 14, that ITE says. So the ITE cannot have two different values. Can have 26, have 14 for the same number. So it's only when you apply the occupancy rate to that, you will find that both of them are 14.
So again, we would just you need to show us where that says it on ITE, because we've never seen that applied in traffic report, the 55% against the peak rate. The peak rate is the peak rate. You don't get a credit for it. So if you can show us that, again, we've reviewed many traffic reports, that's never been.
For cannabis?
For any facility,
Okay,
including
but
cannabis, including cannabis.
If you look at the 85th percentile for a shopping center, right, for example, the rates are lower than the average rate. The 85th percentile rate is actually lower than the average rate.
Okay.
But in this cannabis, the 85th percentile that you're asking, because of this limited data that they have, the 85th percentile average rate of the 85th percentile is much higher than the site's average, the parking rate itself. And that's why ITE put a note there and gave an additional note and said, of all the sites that they studied, the 11 sites they studied, they also gave some information about the parking ratio. That the parking ratio is actually 10 spaces per 1,000 square foot in the parking ratio. If you use the parking ratio, you get 22 spaces. You will not match 26. And then they further says that the sites that they studied, the average parking occupancy for all the sites that they saw was 55%. These are the things you have to put them together to come to a realistic number. You can't just use the.
I'll tell you what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to write a memo for us explaining that so that we have it. Because our engineer is saying they don't see that anywhere. So it would be easier, because by the way, you completely failed at being brief, by the way. I just want to, for the record, that was not brief. I know you lost it 5 minutes ago. So, and we're gonna take questions, but if you could put that together for us, it would, like I said, we're not gonna finish tonight. So we would like to see that in writing so we can take a look at it in advance of the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Also, in terms of the traffic counts, so they're a mile away, and they were also from 2019. Don't you think there's any significance with the newer vehicles, the vehicles that are coming today versus 2019?
Well, again, like I said, it's just to put the site traffic into context. The amount of traffic that the site is generating, right? It's what I want, I'm using the existing traffic on the road for you to have an idea of how much the impact will be.
But it's not existing, it's from 2019.
Yeah, that's the only data that NJDOT has that is at that location.
So would you object to getting new traffic counts? So that it is existing? And does it, when you say 64 trips, is it based off of that number?
ITE,
It's based off of
the
ITE.
ITE, ITE projection. And like I said, we didn't take credit for the existing sites, right? That will reduce the traffic. Those traffic that will normally come for the laundromat will leave the road. Will no longer come there.
I think if you studied the site, you would see that the overwhelming number of customers for that laundromat do not arrive by car.
Yeah.
So I think some updated counts of traffic would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, we didn't take credit for the any traffic from the laundromat.
Yeah, what I'm saying is almost none.
Yeah.
So it's worse. Anyone for the board have any questions?
I have one quick question.
Shoot.
Where does the assumption of 5 to 10 minutes per transaction come from?
From experience from other locations over time. It's experience from other locations.
Your experience, or is that experience that you're gathering from other
Experience
sources?
that I'm aware of from gathering information from being on board, you know, from operations of existing locations.
Anyone else from the board have any questions? Anyone from the public have any questions? We haven't heard from you, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, name and address.
Sam T. Rock, 41 Rector Place,
And I'm sorry, spell your last name?
TUD-OR.
I'm sorry, TUD.
Tom, UD like David, OROD like.
Okay, good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Thank you.
Okay, clarification if I could get one.
Yes.
You discussed the traffic on Rankin Place with you. You mentioned something about gaps between vehicles, is that correct?
Yeah.
So what is the relevance of that? Gaps.
The relevance of that is how traffic.
Can you pull the microphone close, please? Thank you.
How traffic from this site will be able to merge. Do they have gaps to be able to merge?
In your view, is that they do have gaps?
Yes. Yes, they do. Because of the low amount of traffic that the site is going to be generating in the peak hour.
The low amount of traffic on Rector Place.
No, on the site.
Cars exiting the site
Cars
on their
exiting
peak
the
time
site.
is what he's saying.
How do you know that there's gaps where people can move, especially for a left-hand turn? Going out of the premises on the Rector Place, how do you know there's gaps there? I live on the street.
Yeah.
I would not agree with that assessment.
Wow. Yeah. Even in New York City,
Where I used to live, go ahead.
there are gaps. People still merge.
You talk about Rector Place.
I understand the Rector Place cannot be as worse as New York, but I said, I went out there. If you take a stopwatch, you see the driveway, watch as the first car passes.
I'll pull that up there.
The rear bumper of the car, when it passes, right? You watch.
Just bring the mic closer, please.
Oh, sorry, you watch for the next car that comes and you time it. Okay, that's how you determine how much gap you have. And you record how many of them that are within. The critical gap for unsignalized intersections is 4 seconds.
When I pull out of that parking lot, and turn left on the rector, how many lanes of traffic are? In practical lanes, I'm not talking about lane markings, how many lanes of traffic exist on that road?
On Rector, it's one lane.
There's 3 lanes, there's 2 that are turning north on Route 35, and one else can be southbound.
So I don't get it. You said if I pull out from the site, from my site,
You have to cross 2 lanes of traffic when there's cars there. To get to that other lane, where you wanna go left. There's 3 lanes of traffic.
okay,
So that gap may be irrelevant, especially when people, number one, waiting for the light because you use up both lanes. And number 2, when there's a train there, there's cars backed up all the way to the corner door and gaps.
okay. And I understand what you're saying. Gaps also are also provided by signals. The train provides gaps. The option signals there provide gaps. Traffic operation is dynamic. It's not a static thing. But everybody is going like that. There are policy gaps. They happen, right? The train, when the train is crossing, like you want to call it, right? It creates gaps on 13. But we're not talking about 400 vehicles coming out of the site. It's only about 12 in the peak hour.
I agree, but
So they
wouldn't
have gaps.
wouldn't you agree that when those cars have to turn left on the right, you have to deal with 2 lanes of traffic? They're crossing 2, and trying to get into another one that's going in the other direction.
Yeah, but it's not a lot of traffic, that's the point.
I would disagree because I live on that street and I walk there, drive there.
Let me ask you this then. If you come out from your driveway,
Yep.
do you measure to the road?
Wait, what?
Are you able to get it, make a left turn from your driveway?
Not always, because I
You
have,
never made a left turn?
no,
That's the point.
you're asking if I can.
It's possible to have gaps.
It's always possible, but it's not easy for me to get out because people don't want to let you in. Because people coming down Route 35 are frustrated because they're no longer going 50 to 60 miles an hour. They're stuck on my street waiting for a train or a light. They don't want to let me in. So sometimes it takes a long time for me to get onto the street.
I understand.
So you agree that, I want to put the following question. So you agree that there's actually 3 lanes of traffic right by the laundromat on the right?
Yeah, the 2 lanes that they have to, for left turns, yes.
Okay, good.
Keep in mind, it's not officially marked back that far.
It's not.
You're right, I mean, you're right, it's only 35 feet wide, which is not really wide enough for 3 lanes, and it's not marked back that far, but yes, you're,
The traffic.
many times it is 2 lanes heading north.
The traffic splits before. So
Yes,
it's 3 lanes. That's it.
thank you. Mr. Fabricant?
Would you say that vehicular congestion is a major issue at Richter Place in the area known as the Northern Gateway?
So what will be the other?
Would you say that vehicular congestion is a major issue at Richter Place and the area known as the Northern Gateway?
I wouldn't say that unless I studied Northern Gateway.
So you're saying you haven't studied it?
I don't know what you're talking about. Where is the Northern Gateway?
Let me hop in here, the site, the triangle of Rector, Route 35 and Bridge Avenue. Did your traffic study rate those intersections?
No, I didn't do an analysis of the intersection, if that's what you're asking, I didn't do
Okay.
that. Again, like I said, the amount of traffic, whatever, what would trigger a traffic analysis of an intersection would be when you generate 100 new peak hour trips. That is the trigger. But this side does not do that.
Thank you. Would you say that the area is recognized to be particularly unsafe for pedestrians and bicyclists?
I wouldn't know. For you to make a conclusion on safety, you have to do a safety study.
Would you say that the area is a hotspot for crashes of vehicles?
I wouldn't know that.
Are you aware that if you break down 17,000 vehicles for 24 hours down to seconds, that's 1 every 5 seconds on average?
No, it doesn't work that way.
Tell me.
Okay, between the hours of 12 midnight to 6 a.m. will not have the same amount of traffic from 6 a.m. to 12 noon. So it's the peak hours that really drive the daily traffic volume. It's not, again, like I said, it's not a calculation you make and say, well, you have 24 hours, every minute is this vehicle that comes there. There's a distribution of traffic, which, you know, in the night, you don't have a lot of traffic on that 6 thing. They're not going to be zooming in the night. So there's a distribution. So I wouldn't say that it's every car, every 5 minutes, every 5 seconds.
I didn't say that.
Or whatever you said. I can't remember exactly what you said.
I said on average, there's 1 every 5 seconds, just break it down.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I just said. It can be 1 vehicle every 5 seconds.
On average.
No.
You observe, you observed what you described as many 6 to 10 second gaps.
Right.
When did you make that observation and where did you make that observation?
At the side drive, the existing side drive. Right.
When, what day, what time,
What time?
what day and time, please?
What day?
The day of the week would be more helpful.
I believe you said June 13th.
Yes.
What time of day would be helpful?
I'm sorry, it was June 13th, 2019, or,
No, that's for the
okay.
count she was talking about.
So you-
Was it Saturday?
So was the gap count, is that what-
Yeah, no.
is that what you're asking, Mr. Fabricant? The date he did the gap count
The day of the week and the time of day.
of the gap count?
Yes.
Okay,
But when he said he didn't quantify, he said he saw many.
yeah, I get
I
it.
said over 100.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What day of the week?
On a Tuesday, the 9th,
Tuesday.
yes,
What time of day is this? If you recall,
between 2 and 3 p.m.
it's not during rush hour. You agree, not during rush hour.
Yeah, but this is actually the peak operation site.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. But what,
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So how many cars need to be stopped at the intersection where Rector Place meets Riverside? And how many cars have to be stopped at that light to completely obstruct the only drive exit for your property?
How many cars?
Yes.
I didn't.
And how often might that happen?
I don't know.
And if it were to happen, when the light turns green and the cars start to move forward, but one of the vehicles exiting your lot wants to make a left turn, as Mr. Tudorov was saying, that car, would that car have a view of traffic traveling on the side of Rector Place from the point of exit at your property? Or would the view be obstructed by the lineup of cars 2 lanes wide moving forward toward the light?
that's your typical operation that I discussed with the last guy that was there. You're gonna have to have traffic that will accept gaps before they can turn. When the light turns to green or red, whichever one it is,
That's not the question.
gaps are gonna be created for
That's
them
not
to
the
turn.
question. The question is, a line of sight to observe oncoming traffic
That is a good.
on the road and lane that you're trying to enter. Now, let's say, you have my experience and you know that your line of view is obstructed. You can't see traffic heading south at Record Place. So you pull out your car across maybe one or two of those lanes, trying to get a better view. And while you're doing that, you're obstructing traffic heading northward toward the green light, aren't you?
Well, what's your,
The question is, please.
I understand what
Let me help out here.
you're setting a scenario that is hypothetical.
No.
If you're asking me if there are good sight lines at the stop line.
Nope.
Right? There are good sight lines. Now,
You asked him what the site line is, and can they see? He's answering your question.
Thank you.
there are good sight lines, right?
There are
Now,
good sight lines?
Of course, there are standards that AASHTO has for calculating what the sight lines are.
And those are physical impediments, trees, walls, branches. It doesn't mean other cars. A proper sight line is, can I turn my head and see? If there's a truck there, of course you can't see. You have to wait for the truck to pass. But keep in mind something. The traffic in this neighborhood is not this applicant's fault.
Understood.
And I would very much like to see a traffic study. I'd like to know what these intersections are rated. So if you want a little extra work while you're gone, you should talk to your client about doing an actual traffic study. I'll bet you those intersections are failing. We absolutely can't deny an application because the intersections are already failing. So this site, in my opinion, has great sight lines because there's nothing blocking your view except a car, which you will have to wait for, like you will everywhere else on the planet. So I'd really rather we not talk anymore about traffic. I wanted to leave 10 minutes ago. If you've got questions unrelated to sight lines, how long you're gonna have to wait, I think we're gonna talk about that again next time. And if there's some other people that want to ask questions about other parts regarding traffic or circulation on the site or parking, I'd rather skip to that. And you're over your 5 minutes anyway, so I'll give you one more.
No,
You wanna wait?
I understand your desire to keep moving. Very good.
Ms. Viscomi, then Mr. Tallarico.
Suzanne Scobie, 25 Cedar Street. You testified about turnover. When you talked about the turnover rate, did you include the employees' cars that are already stagnant? Cars are gonna stay. Once you're an employee, you're there, 16 hours?
Well, what the analysis was based on,
You gotta pull the microphone in.
the analysis was based on the number of parking spaces that are available.
Right, but if you're there all day, they're stagnant, or working an 8-hour shift or 6-hour shift, my car's not turning over to let somebody else in.
Right, so again, like I said, the parking turnover based on the 11 spaces, right? You can service between 66 cars to 132. So even in the worst case scenario that you're talking about, right? There's 3 employee spaces. Right?
Well, they mentioned 6 employees.
Well, you're assuming that all the employees are gonna be driving, they do carpool. No,
How many people here carpool?
no, but that's true, I've been in an applicant decides to, provide a vehicle that brings the employees to the site. Okay, so, but let's even if we take the worst case scenario that you're saying, 5 employees, okay? And you take out 5 parking spaces, that's 6. With the turnover rate, the same turnover, we're still gonna be servicing all this, traffic that the site will generate.
Okay, if you take that scenario, but one of the spots would be handicapped, so we're not gonna have a handicapped person on the time for the turnover. I would think a handicapped spot would be less utilized than a regular spot. So wouldn't I take that kind of a little bit out of the equation? So it doesn't seem like your assumption seems correct. But, I mean, not for nothing, I mean, did any of you guys carpool? Thank you.
How many people have questions? I did say, so I said Mr. Talarico next.
Because I can, save to next time, I actually have a traffic expert, but I think the next day is May eighth.
If we carry it to May eighth,
I don't think it was May eighth.
well, I can't help that. Mr. Talarico, I'll give you the final word from the public for tonight.
No.
John Talarico, 47 Redwood Place. Complete respect to what was presented and everything else based on the experience, many years' experience, but collectively here in Redwood Place, we have 100 years of experience of dealing with traffic. So the request is, can we, instead of making it one way, one that way into Redwood Place, why don't you make it one way going out the branch here to the other street, because there's less traffic. So that's my request.
And we can certainly ask them to relook at the circulation. Our engineer can do the same. And did you have something specific?
Yes, the applicant, when they return, should
We'll look at it.
indicate to us what they intend to do with employee parking, because I think that's relevant.
I agree that your number of spaces, your number of employees, and the number of potential customers per hour you've testified to is concerning. To me. I'm not speaking for the whole board.
Would point out, Mr. Chairman, that the ordinance, the zoning ordinance requires 9 spaces, we're providing 11. So we're exceeding the requirements of the ordinance.
We're good for May eighth. Is there a motion to carry this application with no further notice to the public to May eighth?
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the record, counsel, do you, on behalf of your client, consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act on the matter?
Yes, to May 8th. And let's just go over what we're gonna do.
Hang on one second, let's get a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor of carrying the May eighth with no further notice to the public?
Aye.
Any opposed? Real quick before we go over that, ladies and gentlemen, just so that you know, there'll be no further notice regarding this application. This is your notice that we are carrying this to May eighth. There'll be nothing in the newspaper. There might be something on the website, but May eighth is the next time we're gonna talk about this.
I'm to ask if we're asking for an additional study to be done before you come back.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So-
What about parking?
I'm interested in an actual traffic analysis. I'd like to see an analysis of those intersections. And I understand your point. You're saying if your answer to our concern about employee parking is that you've met the variance, that's fine. That is your.
We'll provide the proofs.
Yep.
But I mean, the board has to deal with the case.
I get it.
To understand.
So go ahead.
So in terms of additional information, the board is requesting, there's
Your microphone.
intersectional traffic study. Is that really necessary? As the witness has testified, his impact on traffic is less than 1%. So what, I mean, if the municipality has a problem, I understand that, it shouldn't become the applicant's problem to provide a solution for it.
Overwhelmingly, the number of traffic studies that have, the number is overwhelming of applications that have come before this town that include 56-page traffic analyses that I really don't read every page of, but they're in almost every application that comes before this board with ratings of the intersections, all of which are terrible. And I have to explain to the residents what that means and why that is. If you don't want to do it, it's not a requirement. You don't have to do it.
But the board and the public want information on it.
Yes, we do.
I understand.
And you know what,
Pipeline according.
if I could, I took the liberty of writing a cheat sheet of some of the things that we're looking for.
Thank you, I just wanted to go through.
So just, you know, and I might be wrong, so just double check, but I think there was a request for more information on the HVAC details and the dryer vents in the rear. I think, Mr. Chairman, you expressed some aesthetic concerns. Is that about the dryer vents? Yes.
Yes, yeah.
These are the vents going out the rear, because there are additional ones on the.
Both.
All of them, and the hanging units on the sides of the building. I mean, you guys are investing a tremendous amount of money in this site. The outside of it, the way you're talking about the HVAC and those pipes,
Yes.
does not reflect that.
I think there was a request for, I believe, some additional information on the odor eliminating plan details.
Yeah.
I believe there was a request that, if they exist, you submit those studies that showed to suggest higher or lower crime rates with these types of uses, and the study about, increase or decrease in property values.
Residential property.
Residential property values, thank you. I think there was a request for some information on the backup battery system details. I believe there was some question about does that glass need to be reinforced from a security standpoint? I believe there was a request that we send our board engineer, Jackie, information on that 85% section memo, I guess is what you want. And then, Mr. Chairman, you later on said, why don't you write a memo and just explain it?
Fine.
And I believe there was also a discussion about how the board and the public would like to see updated traffic counts, something more realistic. And Jackie just asked me a dumb legal question. Does that need to include other sites that have been approved but not built? Or we don't worry about that?
No, we just need a traffic count of, in front of their driveways.
Okay.
Both drivers?
Both drivers.
Yes.
And then I think there was a request for additional information on employee parking details, how it interacts with the whole site. And that was my list. And just for the record, I need a get out of jail free card in case there was something else we asked during the hearing. Just because I'm not mentioning it now, doesn't mean you don't have to bring it.
Question of the possibility of reversing the traffic.
I'm sorry?
The traffic
Possibility of reversing the
Yes.
traffic flow across the site.
Thank you.
Which I see both sides of. The first time I looked at this, I said you should reverse the traffic flow. If it was my place, I wouldn't reverse the traffic flow because you want people coming over the bridge. But as a resident, I like the reverse traffic flow, so.
Traffic counts won't capture how often the drive is blocked by traffic.
Well, those counts could include gaps based on a more closely dated analysis.
Would the study be from the weekday AM, PM and Saturday midday peak?
They can do the study when we want, when they want, it's up to them. I think it's in their best interest to do it in a peak hour, but there's obviously disagreement of when a peak hour is. Do you want the peak hour that the place is gonna be operating? Or you want the peak hour of rush hour? Whether or not they submit something that we like or not is on them.
Schedule and rush hour.
Listen, guys, traffic here stinks, okay?
No, but
It's not their fault.
It's not, if they're making it worse, it is their fault.
Legally, it really isn't, but
I'm asking for-
I wanna see it too.
The
but-
off-street parking.
Hmm?
The off-street parking during peak demand time, the dispensary just says that there's adequate overflow parking with an 85th percentile peak parking demand of 26 parked cars or up to 46 parked cars. Because if you have 5 dispensaries that ultimately begin operating, where's all this off-street park, where's all this street parking?
As much as I agree with you, they don't need a parking variance. They don't have to do this. It's a great idea if they did, but the other dispensaries in the neighborhood have no impact on this application, and we can't tie them all together and say we hate you because there's 2 other dispensaries in the neighborhood and a Chick-fil-A with a triple drive-through. The law doesn't work that way. So they can bring as much as they want at the next meeting to make us as happy as they possibly can or have to. It's up to them.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just add one last thing is just Mr. Maynardi, just so that we're all clear, you can have this information submitted 10 days in advance of the hearing so that the board professional and the board members will have a chance to look at it, and just as importantly, so that our good friends from the public here can see it and view it and be prepared for the meeting as well.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, we consent to that. Fine.
Thank you.
Can I just add, sorry, when you're looking at the reversing the traffic flow, maybe take a look at restricting left and rights out of your driveways or into your driveways.
Don't restrict any rights out. Consider restricting lefts in. And us.
In general.
Look at it, it's up to you. And you know, I'm assuming that, have you sent anything to the county yet? For Shrewsbury Avenue?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, that's a long enough list. So we're moving this to May 8th with no further notice to the public. Ladies and gentlemen, I say it every time. I love it when you come. I really appreciate it. I know it stinks having to spend 3 hours out of whatever else you were gonna do tonight, but this is important, and I'm glad you did. So thank you all for coming. Motion to adjourn.
No move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.